Hey guys. Hey guys, welcome to another live show. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking something before we fully get started. Make sure you guys are in the chat, letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. But give me just 1 sec. Uno momento. Just want to check the stream real quick. All right, it looks okay. Anyways, hey guys, welcome to another live She Knows Arsenal, another live show. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. I think I can scoot over a little bit this way. I'm a little bit too far to the side. Hold on. Is it this way? Or... I think that's better. Yeah, I'm in the middle now. Okay. I'm back at home. For those of you guys who watched the last two streams, I was at my parents' house babysitting the dogs. Now we are back. And so, yeah, I'm excited to chat with you guys about the most recent Arsenal transfer news. I know that people are getting a little bit frustrated, but hopefully we see some movement within the next couple of days. Like, we just move incredibly slow in the window. And that's pretty much just what it is. We are going to be discussing Ramsdale. Ramsdale has been subject to some interest from Ajax. And so we'll get into the ins and outs of that, as well as who can potentially come in and replace him. I'm going to tell you guys right now that I don't think we need to bring in Szczesny. I don't think we need to bring in Szczesny. I know that he canceled his contract, or there was mutual consent that him and Juventus have parted ways. And so Arsenal fans are like, yeah, let's get him. Is that what we need to be doing? Like, it's a number 2 goalkeeper. And one of my things is, let's not overcomplicate it, because the first time that, Raya concedes a goal, it's going to be, get Szczesny in there. And I'm just like, not with the bullshit. We're also going to talk about whether or not Bournemouth can save us, because literally right after the stream that we had yesterday, the news broke that Nketiah is on the list for Bournemouth to replace Dominic Solanke. And so, we had kind of spoken about that, because some people were like, oh, obviously he'll be on the list. I was like, Bournemouth have been linked to other strikers, and so I don't want to get too excited because he's on the list, but that doesn't mean that he's top of their list. But we'll talk about it nonetheless. And then Marino. Marino, why is it that it's taking so long? There has been some, not necessarily updates in terms of the moving forward, but in terms of some clarity around why things are taking so long. And so we'll get into that. So make sure you guys are smashing the likes. TB says 25 million. Don't mess this up if they bid for him. Shamaria says, I'm expecting 30 million if they decide to go for him. Faya says they need to sell Eddie and buy a clinical striker. Enough with beating around the bush thing. It's obvious we need a striker, and even more obvious that Jesus cannot score goals. Diallo says these transfer window streams are so painful to watch. Can't wait for the football to be back. I mean, that's not very nice, Diallo. I mean, if they're so painful, then why are you watching them? Like, I don't want to hold you if it's terrible, but listen, until the window closes, we're going to be talking about transfers. So I don't know what to tell you, but yeah. Nuances of Fate says Bournemouth actually won Evan Nielsen and Victor Roque as their first choice. I just don't see them dropping to Eddie unless they get desperate. And that's my one thing about it, is that I don't want to get too far into it. Knowing that Bournemouth are really smart. They know that they can go to other teams that are outside of the Premier League, spend probably the same amount, if not less, on a good striker that has a high ceiling, and avoid Eddie's wages. So I don't want to get too excited about it. but they're saying that there's a lot of interest in Eddie. I think when we think about a lot of interest, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's anybody's number one choice. I think Eli Wahi became the clear first choice for Marseille after, talks had slowed down with us. He's not the first choice for Bournemouth. Like, you know, just because you're on somebody's list doesn't mean you're number one. You know what I mean? Boy says it's criminal. If we sign Chesney, TB says this Marino deal is jarring for 4 weeks now. Troy says this team will never win a major silverware if they don't change. Havertz is not good enough by a striker. Aha says just if Nketiah, Ramsdale, Nelson leave, we are going to need at least 2 homegrown players to meet the criteria. Do you know if under 21s can be registered for the senior squad or strictly for under 21 list? What is the cutoff age for the homegrown players? Because we do have homegrown players that are not English, if that makes sense. Like I think Martinelli is Martinelli considered homegrown? Saliba, because we brought them in so young. So I don't have a lot of clarity on the homegrown thing because I'm like, wouldn't Winery, Heaven, these guys be considered? Is there an age cutoff? So I can't answer that question, but I'm pretty sure we'll have what we need. To be honest, I'm pretty sure we'll have what we need. Saka homegrown, Martinelli, Saliba, Raya homegrown. Then you have Rice, White. They're homegrown. Yeah, White homegrown. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many do you need? 8? Or is it just you can't have more than 17? You can't have more than 17 non-homegrown or something like that. So Boy says, what question do you have about homegrowns? I can answer all of them. We need at least 8 out of the 25. And so that's 6. Yeah. So, but Winery and Miles Lewis Skelly and them would not count because they're too young. Is that the cutoff? Like the age? So yeah. We'll see about that. I'm sure we'll have what we need though. Like I'm sure we'll go into the season with what we need. Also Setford, does he not count? Is he homegrown? Why we want Bentley. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have the numbers. We only need 2 more. So we'll see. Mo Bay Joe says the longer we wait, the less options there are. This is our biggest transfer window in the Emirates era. And even as one of Arteta's biggest supporters, I have to admit I've been underwhelmed. Every window is the biggest window in Mikel's, 10-year. Like we said that last window. But I don't think we're just waiting for the sake of waiting. I think we have to wait because the money is not just there for us to use. Like I think there's a little bit of games play with the Marino deal. Let's just get into it because we're kind of getting into the stuff that I want to talk about anyways. So yeah, make sure you guys are smashing the likes. Let's start off with Ramsdale because I've been saying I'm really not that sold on Ramsdale leaving in terms of I don't know if he's going to leave or not. I think he's a hard sell. I think he's a hard sell because of his wages. He didn't play all last season. He's not, you know what I mean? I think he's a difficult, player to move if people are not looking for a number one goalkeeper. So that limits things quite a bit. So David Ornstein had an exclusive early today saying Arsenal reject an approach from Ajax to sign Aaron Ramsdale. Initial loan turned down. AFC, rather, the 26-year-old England international leaves permanently this summer, but Ajax retain interest / optimism. Espanyol keeper Juan Garcia, potential replacement. So Juan Garcia is not somebody that we haven't heard about. This was already spoken about earlier on in the window that is the goalkeeper that Arsenal would want to replace Ramsdale. He's basically a younger version of Raya. That's what I gathered from the scouting reports and the clips that I've watched. He's a younger version of David Raya. And so, and you guys also know how I feel about backup goalkeepers. I couldn't give a damn. I think we place so much emphasis on the backup goalkeeper more than any other club. And what if Raya gets injured? It's, goalkeepers really don't get injured that much. Like if he does get injured, it's really unfortunate. But like in reality, most people have just, like good goalkeeper behind. Like we don't need another world class one. I know that we're going up against City, so City have so and so, but like in reality, they just need to be like competent. I like the idea of getting a younger goalkeeper that can kind of grow into being the number one rather than an old guy. But if we got a fucking old guy, then we got an old guy. Like honestly, like it's a number two goalkeeper. That's why I'm against the Chesney thing, because I know how Arsenal fans operate. If they get another goalkeeper behind Raya that they think is better than him or whatever, because he played for Juventus and he used to play for Arsenal and he's Chesney, then the first time that Raya concedes, take him out, take him out. And like in reality, you have a number one and a number two. And even if the number one is fucking up, the number two doesn't come on. So we need a number two. So either bring in an old guy, number two, or a young guy, number two. But we don't need to be muddying the waters like we did last season and have all this bullshit going on when we need to be focused on winning trophies. So I think, Juan Garcia, Bentley, I don't give a fuck. Get us a number two. A clear number two. But let's go back to, the loan was rejected, but Ajax retained interest / optimism. So I could see like a loan with like an option and it becomes permanent if certain things are met. I can see a loan with obligation. Idealistically, they come back with 20 something million and we just sell him. So let's see how that works out. It seems like we have a good relationship with Ajax. So Setford came from Ajax, Timber came from Ajax. So selling players to Ajax would be probably a good thing. But let's see what happens with that. But at least somebody's interested, because for a minute there, it wasn't looking great. So let's see. If you guys want to know like about the homegrown stuff, Boy is putting that information in the chat. I'm not going to go through it all, but if you want to know more, I think he's putting some information on it in the chat. I'm a real gooner says, question, better chance of selling Ramsdale than Nketiah and Nelson. I think they're all tough sales. I think they're all tough to sell. I think Nelson is probably the hardest sale. And then Ramsdale's second hardest, and then Nketiah. So yay! Guys, I love him so much. Go lay down in your bed. But yeah, I think Ramsdale is a tough sale because of just the optics of him. Like he's a good goalkeeper, but he's not world class. We kind of know what his ceiling is, like, and then he sat on our bench after like being ousted by Raya. And now he's 26 and he's not somebody that I think anybody wants to spend a lot on and would probably want to try before they buy to see if he's the right fit for them. So I think he's tough, especially with the wages that he's on. And Reese for a similar reason. The reason why, even though I don't think Eddie is like super talented, is because he actually played more than either one of them. So you can actually like see what kind of player Nketiah is. You know exactly what you're going to get. Nelson and Ramsdale, I think you know a little bit less about what you're going to get, especially from Nelson, because you haven't seen him play in years. So the less you've seen a player play, I think the harder it is to sell. If you kind of figure they're kind of like, there's no hype around them. Like there's still hype around Emil. So even if you haven't seen him play, the hype is still there, where none of them have any hype. So if you haven't seen them play, there's questions on what kind of player they are. The player that you can see the clearest and know exactly what you're going to get is Nketiah. And that's why I think he's an easier sell than Ramsdale and Nelson. because you just don't know what you're going to get from them. Diallo says, "Hi Jess, or Miss Jess, I'm here because of your vibes. I struggle with the protracted transfer chit chat. I like the value of your football knowledge though, like in sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate that super chat, Diallo. I was mostly just joking, but yeah, I know it's difficult to talk about stuff that's not really happening or nothing's really moving, and it is easier to talk about things that we've already seen. That's why like match reactions are my favorite, because we've seen something, there's something to talk about. But these, transfer conversations are a little bit difficult because nothing is really happening. Um, let's see. I'm just looking to make sure nothing has come out. So yeah, and before we wrap up the Ramsdale stuff, also notice that Ethan, Heaven, and Miles Lewis Skelly were all involved in media day. So, I mean, that's exciting to me because you know that they're going to play a role, some type of role. So yeah, get ready. 'Cause I think hot take is that Ethan and Miles Lewis Skelly will play a much bigger role than probably people think that they will. They're saying, oh, they'll just probably play the cups. No, there will be a period within the season where they're going to have a much bigger impact than I feel like people think that they are, because they're ready. Like they're ready. Like there's no question. Heaven might actually need more time. And maybe we'll just get cups, but they were so impressive during preseason. And, you know, academy kids do have value when they're good. They have so much value because they save you money, and they just get it. Like it's Ethan and Miles Lewis Kelly, they just fucking get it. Like they just come out there and they make shit happen. And I like that. You think about like what we've been asking for from like Kivior and Fabio Vieira in particular. You know, they're doing all the things that we wanted those two to do, which is express yourself on the ball, make things happen, shake it up, be excited, fight for a position. I think that, they've pretty much made it where I think it's a gray area whether or not Fabio Vieira and Kivior should be ahead of them in the pecking order. Like, and I know it's just preseason, but they were not playing. They want to play. Do you know what I mean? Like they want minutes. And I've been waiting for Fabio Vieira to show that he wants minutes. He didn't really do that. And Kivior also leaves a little bit to be desired when it comes to influencing the match from a passing perspective, which I think Miles Lewis Skelly did a lot more of. So yeah. Um, I'm hoping that they play a big role, but my expectation is that they will have a bigger impact than I think a lot of people think that they will. Nuances of Fate says, which begs the question, why did we sign Ramsdale? If we're going back to the Ramsdale conversation, Ramsdale, I mean, we signed him because we couldn't get Raya. We couldn't get our number one option, but we wanted to bring in somebody that could play our way. And for a while, Ramsdale worked. Like he did, he worked. Like nobody can say that Ramsdale did not work, for he was not perfect, but he was good, So if we had went through last summer and never even looked at Raya, I don't think that anybody like I think people would still have questions about Ramsdale, but no one would be like, oh, we got to get a goalkeeper. We got to get a goalkeeper. I think you see what I'm saying? So um, I think we got him because we couldn't get Raya and he was a good option. And we felt like maybe he could be somebody that grew into the position, or we could, you know, sell him on for a bigger fee because he's English. The problem is when you damage their value the way that we handle some of these players that we want to move on or put on the outskirts or whatever, or kind of we want to get people to be interested in them. I think we damage it quite a bit by the way that we handle things. The way that the Ramsdale Raya thing was handled was so poor. And so it damaged, I think, his profile quite a bit, So I don't think Ramsdale was ever really here for the long haul. I think they always knew that they were going to want to bring in Raya or a goalkeeper like Raya at some stage. And so instead of, I think the decision to do it the way that they did it really hurt their ability to get like 40 million for Ramsdale. Because in reality, he should have finished the season that we finished, that first season that we finished second, as a 40 million pound goalkeeper. But he didn't, because we brought in Raya, and then all the drama happened, and then he played a couple of games and then he didn't look good, and a whole season on our bench, and now we're probably not going to be able to sell him for anything. So yeah, I think we got him because he was a good option until we could actually get the goalkeeper that we wanted. And with the knowledge that he plays for the national team, he's English, so we should be able to get double what we paid for Ramsdale. But we damaged his profile, and so now it's more difficult. Like, the fact that we'll probably lose money on Ramsdale, I think is less about his talent level and more about the way that we damaged the profile the whole last season. Like, that was not smart the way that it was done. Like, and I wanted a new goalkeeper, but I didn't want it like that. I would have dealt with a whole nother season of Ramsdale if that meant that we could have sold him this summer for 40 million and we could have brought in Raya this season. Because lo and behold, changing our goalkeeper was not the difference between winning the league and not. So we probably could have done another year with Ramsdale and it would have been just fine. So yeah, Dennis says, if Ajax really want and pay the money, these European clubs and their BS not wanting to pay for players is super annoying. They'll play for who they really want. If they really want them, they'll pay for them. And I think we have players that are less than optimal, and then they're on big wages. So I'm not surprised that like an Ajax would come with a loan option first. And them coming with loan first, which is exactly what Marseille did, by the way, with Eddie. They wanted a loan with like an option. So if they start with that, just know for a fact that they don't really rate this player that highly. So don't expect to get up to anything decent. I would not be surprised if we sold him, like we let him go for a loan with an option that becomes permanent if certain things happen. That's probably the most that Ajax will do. Like, let's be serious. So yeah. Let's see. TB says reason the issue is because he is English and it's the English bias. Pikachu says Arteta is saying Ramsdale didn't work. People's memories do not matter. The Emirates Faithful says English tax doesn't work for us. We're the only club from the top that can't sell our players for the right money, even if they don't get game time. We just I wonder if there's another way to deal with players that you don't want in your club without icing them out the way that we ice them out. We don't necessarily like we don't necessarily like, if you really want to sell something, you're going to try to like set it up so that it looks attractive. I think we do the opposite. I think we make it so obvious we don't want these players by icing them out badly. And then like you ice them out, but you gave them massive contracts. So everything always like, it just works against us. It's like, and then when you think about the way that we sold Willock, that was like the perfect sale. If it was up to some Arsenal fans, we would have waited a whole year later. But selling him before it was like really obvious to sell him, we got 25 million for a player that was never going to really play for us, and it's fine. We should sell before it's obvious. But equally, if you want to sell players and you know that they're not a part of your plans, sell them before you ice them out that season where you leave them on the bench and let them rot. Because once they do that season, it's done, So that's kind of how I think of things. I think that's where Arteta comes into play. If Edu knows that Arteta is about to ice this player out badly, he needs to move him on now. That's why I think they need to move on Kivior now, because the level of icing out Kivior is about to get, he might freeze to death. He might catch hypothermia. Like, seriously. So sell him now, because this year on the bench that Kivior is about to have, we're not going to be able to get a loan next season, next summer, Mosquito says, "Hi, Jessica. In your opinion, with the purchase of Calafiori alone, the team will still remain competitive to try to win the Premier League, or do we need an attacker who guarantees 20 goals?" I mean, I kind of spoke about this yesterday, but nothing guarantees us the league. So, not a single attacker that we buy guarantees us the league, and I don't think we could buy. And even like, and let's be realistic here. I'm not talking about if you were to buy Mbappe, but any attacker that we're linked with, or any attacker that we want to get, any midfielder that we want to get, is not going to make our team better than City's. Like, we're still not going to be as good as them. Like, Arsenal fans who think we're as good as City are delusional. Like, we're just not, So Arteta's coaching has made the gap smaller, but in terms of the quality of the players and the depth in the squad, we're still not we're still not that as close to them as I think people think we are. And so Calafiori helps us just for the simple fact that he's going to be able to play left back, and we can stop the merry-go-round before with Tomiyasu and Kivior. Zinchenko's still going to be there, but Calafiori can step into that position, and hopefully will be more of like a stand-in feature. Like, he's gonna be like a starter, kind of like almost like Ben White on the other side, somebody that we can rely upon. But even if you were to go in and bring in, let's say we were to bring in Gyökeres, that still doesn't guarantee us nothing. Like, it doesn't guarantee anything. The likelihood, like, of us winning the league is very small, where the likelihood of City winning it is very big, because they've won it 4 times before and they're the best team. And when is the last time that the best team did not win it? We were not the best team last season. I don't know where Arsenal fans are getting that in their head, that we were the best team last season. We were not. We were barely hanging on to a title race in December. And it wasn't until after that where we started playing really well. Maybe second half of the season, we were better than City. But over the span of the season, we were not the best team. Underlying metrics say we weren't the best team. We were probably the best defensive team. Attacking wise, there was still a gap there. So in terms of chances created and stuff like that, especially at the beginning of the season. So no attacker guarantees anything, but we already know what we have is not enough. So we should still push to bring in an attacker. I don't even know if it needs to be somebody that guarantees 20 goals a season. I think it needs to be somebody with X factor. They don't need to score 20 goals. They need to score against Villa. They need to score against West Ham. They need to score against Newcastle. That they need to score against Bayern. That is the type of player that we need. That's not really a 20 goal per season striker. That's just somebody who's not afraid to shoot the ball, like, in games. It's somebody like a Kudus, somebody that can make something out of nothing. So people are heavily focused on a striker. I don't actually think it needs to be a striker. It could be, but it just needs to be an attacker that has X factor, somebody that can create something out of nothing. Because that's really the gap that we've seen, I think, mostly between us and City. Besides the quality gaps here and there, is that we don't have somebody that's going to guarantee us a goal when we're not playing well, or when times are a little bit harder. That 5% of games where we don't really look like scoring, but we have that one player where we're like, well, fuck it, so and so's up there, let me just hoof it up there and they're going to make something happen. Somebody that is not just going to, with 10 minutes to go, like, not have a single shot when we're down a goal. You know what I mean? Somebody that's going to make shit happen. So to me, it's not about 20 goals per season. It's getting that 5% of games taken care of, where we have somebody that can make something out of nothing, but that still doesn't guarantee anything. But we know what we have right now doesn't work, so we need to keep pushing until we get there. Hopefully I answer your question. So let's move on to, because we spoke about Ramsdale, we spoke a little bit about the kids. I do want to talk about what's going on with Eddie really quick. Eddie, like I said, is subject to interest from Bournemouth. Bournemouth have put him on their list of striker options to replace Dominic Solanke, who left to go to Spurs for £65 million. And so that is a welcome piece of news after the Marseille deal collapsed, or they went for somebody else. They got Eli Wahi instead. And so, with Premier League teams being interested, you would imagine that we'd get more for Eddie if they were to come in for him. The only thing that's keeping me back from getting too excited about this is the fact that they put in a bid for someone else first that they wanted more. So, yeah. Um he's not their first choice. So there's interest, and the reports are saying that there's a lot of interest in Eddie and Nketiah, which I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But can we broker a deal with Bournemouth? Can we convince them that this is the guy that they need? Can we get 30 million? I would take 25 to 30 million pounds, like just like not alone with an obligation, not, some bullshit, whatever Marseille was offering. 25 to 30 million pounds for Eddie and Nketiah would be great business. But it's just a matter of whether or not they actually want him or if they want the other guy more and he's just down on the list. You know, West Ham liked Eddie, but they went for Fulkrug. Bournemouth like Eddie, but they were already interested in somebody else. So let's see if that firms up a little bit. But Eddie is somebody that I really do expect to leave this summer. And I would be very kind of like, what are we doing if we can't move him on? As much as I don't rate him, as an Arsenal player, I'm not of the mindset where it's like, oh, well, just because I don't like him, I'd sell him for a bag of chips. Just because I don't want him doesn't mean he doesn't have any value. And I think right like behind Emil, he has the most value of the players that we could possibly sell. So we should be able to get 25 to 30 million. We should not have to lower our our asking price for him. I said this yesterday. I feel like if Edu's a good sporting director, he will find somebody to buy Eddie for 25 to 35 mil or 30 million pounds. We should be able to sell our dead wood for good fees like everybody else does. Other teams can sell their ass players for good fees. I don't know how many times I've been like, damn, they sold him for that. How did they get that? So a mark of a good sporting director is somebody that can make magic happen. And I think we're way beyond the Mustafis and Socrates. We still talk about the players that we don't like they're Mustafi and Socrates, but they're not. I don't want Eddie here anymore. I think we need to move him on, but I fully expect to get 25 to 30 million for Eddie and Nketiah. Fully. 65 million gets you Solanke. 30 million should get you Nketiah. We are like the market is so different now. I don't know why people think he's worth 15 million. He is not. He is worth 25 to 30 million in this market. And that's what we should be getting for him, period. So Edu needs to make it shake. Well, hopefully, Bournemouth firm up their interests. So they said initial talks came about right after their bid for Evan Nielsen was rejected. So and the price being mooted is 25 million pounds. We should be able to get that for Eddie. We should not have to go down to 15 million. To me, that's insane, to have to get less than that. you know? Vegas Gunner, thank you so much for your super chat. Vegas Gunner says people should realize how important wages are. Most players moving between clubs this summer on 60K or less per week. ESR was on low wages. And that is a good point, for sure. And especially in regards to Eddie, he's on high wages. That being said, I still think 25 million is just about, what we should be getting. Like 25 million is not that much. So, it's just not. Um, Come on now. I don't know what's going on in the chat. I'm trying to go back. I'm seeing people say racist. What are we talking about? There is a mod in the chat. If you guys could just take care of that, that'd be great. Get rid of whoever is saying whatever. But let's not be stupid. Be normal in the chat, please. Thank you. So yeah, Eddie, 25, 30 million to me is more than good enough. So yeah, Pikachu says Eddie had a bad year last year. That's what holding his price down. Otani says, question, why is Nketiah worth 25 million pounds in a depressed market? Recruiting depths, watch film. They see him struggling to trap balls, poor finish touch. You are talking from your perspective of what you see from Eddie. You know, we're talking about could he start for a mid-table to lower mid-table Premier League side? Yes, he can. Yeah, he didn't have like the best year last season, but he did score a hat trick. He did score goals, you know, so he wasn't like he with what minutes he had, he scored goals, you know. So I personally, I think Arsenal fans speak about Eddie based on them wanting him out and them not liking him. We actually do not know how scouts actually look at him and how they view of him. You know, the main reason why Marseille didn't really want to go after Eddie or didn't push for Eddie is just because of like the fee, but they were at least willing to pay 27 million euros, which is like what, 22 million pounds or something like that. So 22 million pounds is not way off of what I'm saying, 25 to 30 million. So, and they're a European side. So you think about you move over to the Premier League, we should be able to get that. So again, 25 million to 30 million is not what it was back like a couple of years ago. Like 50 million gets you like a Conor Gallagher, and he's insanely average as a player. 65 million gets you Solanke, who, if we went to get him, a lot of Arsenal fans would be upset. 65 million gets you Solanke. You see what I'm saying? So it's like Hoyland. It's like they spent like 65 million on him or something like that for a player that scored 7 goals for Atalanta. Like, this is not your mama's market back in the day. 25 to 30 million is fucking peanuts. So 25 to 30 million for me is like nothing for a player of his experience, the amount of goals that he scores. But like, we spent 65 million on Havertz. Like, let's be serious. So if 65 million gets you Solanke, 30 million should get you Nketiah. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, Josh says if Arsenal spent 30 million on Eddie, we'd be pissed. Well, we wouldn't. We're talking about Bournemouth. You know, Bournemouth is a different conversation than Arsenal. So like, you know, I get what you're trying to say, but I don't know why Arsenal fans are trying to convince other sides not to spend decent regular money on our players. It seems counterintuitive to constantly be talking about Eddie is crap. I wouldn't pay, you know, it's like it's not about how we think about him, it's what he's worth in the market. What we think about Eddie is totally different. Like, I saw Liverpool fans today they were talking about Luis Diaz like a dog when he was linked to Manchester City for like a hot second for 70 million. Like, they think he's shit, but they wouldn't like 70 million for a player that they don't rate. So how we think about a player is so much different than what they're worth. So we have to stop talking about it like that. You know, it's like, we're Arsenal. Of course we wouldn't want to spend 30 million on Eddie. Like, you know, it's like, come on now. So yeah, and this is coming from somebody who does not rate Eddie. So hello, you know? Let's be serious. So Vig says Spurs were fleeced, but Solanke scored 19 goals equal to Eddie's entire tally. Unfair comparison. But we're talking about the difference between spending 60. Well, first of all, okay, they got fleeced. How many of us ever pay exactly what somebody we feel like they're worth? Like, Solanke is probably in everybody's mind worth 40 million, but they spent 65 million because the market is what the market is, what the market is. So they didn't really get fleeced. They spent what the market dictated what he was worth, which is 65 million, which is crazy because a couple of months ago, people would have spent 60 something million on Tony. So those strikers, the Solankes, the Tonys, these guys, you're spending 60 something million on them, Premier League club to Premier League club. So again, I'm not talking about spending 60 something million on Eddie. I'm saying half of that, less than half of that, is what Eddie is worth. Just because you don't like Eddie doesn't mean he doesn't have any value. Again, Marseille were willing to spend 22 million pounds on Eddie. So why wouldn't Bournemouth spend 25 million on Eddie, who's a Premier League side that's worth more? Stop, like, just because you don't like it. I feel like Arsenal fans, you guys are not getting it. It's like, but I don't like Eddie. I don't really like Eddie. He's shit. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have any value in the market, guys. Come on now. Like, but yeah, I think um the way we think about things is a little lame. And another thing, Trossard had 1 year left on his deal. So, like, if Trossard didn't have 1 year left on his deal, we would have spent 50 million on him. Just like Marino. Marino didn't have 1 year left on his deal, he'd be worth 50 million. So this is like not a fair comparison at all. Eddie has 3 years left on his deal. Trossard had 1. So that's the difference, and that's why we got Trossard for so little. Plus, he was fighting with the manager, and they wanted him out. So, yeah, come on. Why are you guys trying to convince yourselves that Eddie's worth 10 million? You know he's not worth 10 million. You know he's worth at least 25 million. The thing is you want him out so bad that you'll take anything. And the problem with that is that taking 10 to 15 million for Eddie does not guarantee you an attacker of the standard in which you want. So we need to make sure that we get enough money for Eddie so that we can actually get an attacker that's good enough for us. Because 10 million ain't going to get you anything. 10 million is not going to get you anything in the market of the attacker that you want. So you should actually want more for Eddie, because getting a lot for Eddie, or exactly what he's worth, is going to probably get you closer to the attacker that you want. If you think you can sell Eddie for 10 million and reinvest that into a decent attacker, wait for it. Like, you guys don't think. You're not thinking. We can sell Eddie for 10 million, and we can go over to Crystal Palace and offer that 10 million to get Eze. Guys, be serious. Come on now. We need to get 25 million. Come on. Like, come on. And this is coming from somebody who does not like Eddie, but yeah, I think 25 to 30 million in this market for Eddie makes sense, especially when the baseline for Marseille was 22 million. So 22 million from Marseille, a European side, we should be able to get 25 to 30 million from Bournemouth. So, yeah. Ify says Eddie should be 30 million max, in my opinion. I agree. Somewhere between there, 25 to 30 million for Eddie makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't see how anybody could think he's lower than that. And Eddie, like, let's say Eddie is not very, like, he's not prolific for us. But he also didn't play very much last season, right? Because the whole caveat on, like, Havertz scoring goals for us is, yeah, but he only played half a season at striker. So if he had played striker the entire season, of course he can get 20 goals. Eddie, he started a handful of like maybe at the beginning of the season, he started like 8 matches. He scored 5 goals and 2 assists. So he could probably get 12 to 15 goals for Bournemouth, maybe a little bit more. 12 to 15 goals is nothing to look down upon. So, yeah, I feel like we're so down on Eddie that we'd sell him for peanuts. But if you want to reinvest that into a half decent attacker, you should probably want a little bit more for Eddie, because we don't have that much money just laying around. That's very clear by the way that we're negotiating our deals. We're negotiating it down to the penny. So wanting what he's actually worth is better than just throwing him out the window and for free because you don't like the kid. Like, that's all I'm saying. Anton Dunn says Eddie was a bagsman for the youth, so he could flourish under a manager that gets him 20 plus 10 should be easy. 20 plus 10, that sounds good too. The add-ons and all that kind of stuff. Like, Eddie, just because he's not good for us doesn't mean he can't be good for somebody else. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Shamaria says a team like Bournemouth will value a player like Eddie quite highly since he has some experience in the league. Josh says, but we're down on Eddie for a reason. We know his value because he's not that good. Josh, I just feel like you don't like Eddie, so you can't see beyond what his value would be to another team. You can only think about what his value is to us. We are Arsenal. They are Bournemouth. Like, if they could get any of our players, they would be like gagging for it. Like, it's just different, So if you can't think beyond Eddie is not good enough for Arsenal, you won't be able to see what his value is to another team. So I don't know what to tell you. He's worth 25 to 30 million. He just is. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But 20 plus 10, 25 plus 5, something like that. Blaze says 25 million plus 5 add-ons for Eddie. Do you think that's a good price? Yes. 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 Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I kind of understand why people are like that, but Eddie is not. He's like it's like this. Somebody, what's the saying? One man's trash is another man's treasure. That's very like valid right now. That he's our trash, but to somebody else, he is a good like experienced striker in the league, goal poacher, like blah blah blah. So he would be that for Bournemouth. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. John says, wild seeing the comments. I rated Eddie at 35 million minimum, English homegrown player at 24. And quite frankly, if you guys were in the room making the decisions, I'd be afraid because you guys wouldn't get shit for anybody. If you can't market somebody, if you can't see the positives in the player that you're selling, you're not gonna be able to get the maximum for them. You're just gonna sell them for what you think. You wouldn't sell him for anything. You cancel his contract. And then you'd be sitting around with nothing in your pocket, trying to go over to people, giving, can we get Eze for a loan? Can we get Eze for a loan? We don't have any money because we didn't sell Eddie for anything. Like, I'm glad you guys aren't making the decisions. Like, yeah. So Nico says they just sold Solanke, and I personally wouldn't advise them to replace him with Eddie. Wages playing a factor as well. You personally wouldn't because you're an Arsenal fan that doesn't rate Eddie. Like if I would like you guys would actively talk them out of it, wouldn't you? You would go to Areola and say, "Don't buy Eddie. We don't like him. We don't rate him." Why? Like, they're interested in him. They want him. Like, why would you talk him like why would you try to talk them out of it? I don't understand, you guys. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. What the fuck? Nuances of face says just no one rates Eddie. If no one rates Eddie, then why are Bournemouth interested in him? If no one rates Eddie, why are Bournemouth interested in him? Why are there reports today that Bournemouth are interested in Eddie? Why did Bournemouth contact Arsenal to understand what the price would be if they want to move for him if nobody rates him? Why did Marseille want to pay 22 million pounds for him if no one rates him? Answer those questions. Answer those questions. Why are we talking about Bournemouth's interest if nobody rates him? You don't rate him. You don't rate him. Just because you don't rate him doesn't mean other teams would not want to buy him. Come on. Like, hello? What the fuck? Because Porto rejected their bid. But that doesn't mean they have to look at Eddie, though. They could ask for someone else. There's other players out there on the market. You guys are you guys are just saying whatever. You guys don't make sense. Other teams would be interested in Eddie. I don't care. And I don't rate Eddie for Arsenal, but I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that nobody would want him just because I don't like him. You guys would literally talk Bournemouth out of getting him because you don't like him. Yo, like that's crazy. Shamaria says facts. They could go get Broya from Chelsea or something. Exactly. Oh, well, they had their bid rejected. That doesn't mean you have to go get Eddie. There's other options. You don't make sense. Like, you know what you actually are just like, this is crazy. Like, it's actually insane how Arsenal fans would actually talk Bournemouth out of buying Eddie because they want to prove that nobody rates him. It's insane. Logic is terrible. Like, it really is. But I love you guys, but we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. We'll have to agree to disagree on this one. He's not a championship level player. He could play for a Premier League side. Like, breathe in, breathe out. Like Blaze says, if I'm not wrong, Crystal Palace was interested in Eddie last summer, so was Brighton. Like, we actually turned people down last summer for Eddie. Like, I think we also are like, don't realize that if you even play in the Premier League at all, you're like an elite athlete and play at a high level, so like Eddie's not good enough for Arsenal, but he is still like a good player that someone would take. That's all I'm saying. Boy says, yes, Palace were offering 30 million for Nketiah. So that's all I'm saying. Like, nobody rated Kai Havertz, but we went and gave them 65 million for Kai, and he became our treasure, and he was Chelsea's trash. So it applies to Eddie as well. I'm hoping that Bournemouth firm up their interest. I hope they're not watching this stream, having Arsenal fans talk them out of buying a perfectly decent striker for their team. And hopefully we can get 25 to 30 million for him, because that would be a really, really good return for a player like Eddie. Reece Nelson is a harder sale. I think there's Arsenal fans that actually believe Reece Nelson is probably worth more because he looks good on the ball and he, is technically better than Eddie, but Reece Nelson is our worst player. Like, so he'll probably, if he goes, he'll go for the least. He'll go for 10, or something like that. And I don't know what's going to happen with old Rambo, but hopefully Ajax offer more than a loan. Now, interesting that, Brighton have bought another winger. This is another reason why when people are like, Cozier Dewberry, oh my gosh, he scored in preseason, they're buying more wingers, which means that his like playing time is it's giving gray area here. They have so much depth on the wings, Brighton, that maybe there is something to the Adingra, links, because he was linked to go to another club. I forget what club. I think it was a club in like France, and the deal fell through earlier on in the window. So maybe there's something to the Adingra stuff, but they just bought another winger. So maybe we are looking at him. I wouldn't mind Adingra. I just want to see a more firm link, because it just came from Team News and Ticks, and he's been incredibly unreliable this summer. You can tell whoever he was talking to before, they're not talking to him now because he's not getting the information like he was last summer. So I'm very wishy-washy about what he's saying right now, but I would take Adingra. I would take him because I'd rather somebody with a higher ceiling that's younger than like the Sanes or the Rafinhas or these guys, because although they would make us better, they're kind of, I don't want to say they're washed, but like they're washed, So a player can make you better and they can still be kind of ass. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, Adingra, maybe they are, looking to move him on because they have so many wingers, Brighton. Like nobody needs that many. No one needs that many. Let's see. Let's see. Terrence Tibbs says, Andy, you love nuts in your face? You guys are weird. Who is Andy? Who is Andy? Oh, okay. I see Andy now. Dennis says Cozier Dewberry will have to fight a lot for a position in that Brighton team. He will. If you guys looked at their depth in the winger positions, it's crazy. Not saying he won't make it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up on a loan somewhere. OG says Eddie is no bum. We have talked down on him so much that he has made others feel like he's not worth more. At least he's worth 25 million. And Blaze says Nelson ended very badly as a player. He was very highly rated, but unfortunately, he didn't improve since he came from Hale End. He not only is he unreliable, like Reece Nelson is also unreliable. This is another thing. Eddie at least is always fit. Nelson, goes through a lot of like injuries, like little muscle injuries here and there. He hasn't played a lot of football. He doesn't have reliable end product either. Like he's just kind of like, he's really just not, he's a harder sell than anybody else that we have, especially with the wages that he's on. He should never have gotten a new deal. We should have sold him when we had the chance, when he had less wages. Like £90,000 is insane when I was not surprised that West Ham did not have 15 million for Reece. You know, they didn't want to spend 15 million on Reece, but they were willing to spend 25 million on Somerville. That made sense to me because Somerville, less wages, better player, higher ceiling, you know, where Reece Nelson, like I had him down at the beginning of the summer as a 8 to 10 million we could probably get for Reece Nelson. Where I had like Eddie at like 25-ish million, like 25, 27 million. And I had ESR at like 25, you know. But Reece, I think he's a tough sell. Unfortunately. Saida says, can Adingra play on both wings? Yes. And how old is he? I think he's like 22. He can play on both sides. He plays like across the front three. Adingra. Simon. Okay, let's see. Yeah, he can play across the front three. He had 6 goals and 1 assist last season, which that's not bad. You know, that's not bad. In the Europa League, he had 1 goal and 2 assists. It's like his first year in the league, I think, and he's 22 years old. So, and Brighton usually get their scouting right. You know, they have some duds, but for the most part, they know what they're doing. So yeah, nothing from his stats stand out to me. Aggressive carries are good. His take-ons are okay. His touches in the attacking penalty area, progressive passes received. It's all good. You know, but if I'd rather us get somebody who's kind of like fresh and new and not somebody who's like 28, 29 years old and you know, we know that they're just about to like start to crash and burn. So, yeah. Um I just see a bunch of you're a fool in the chat. Are we okay? Are we, you know? Um, so yeah. But Josh, respectfully, like you're not gonna be able to convince me that like, oh well, Bournemouth, they should want better than Eddie. Are you not an Arsenal fan? You must maybe you're not an Arsenal fan because I feel like like you should want Bournemouth to want Eddie if you're an Arsenal fan. So you must not be an Arsenal fan. You must be a fan from another club who doesn't think Eddie is worth the money, so you'd rather Bournemouth go for somebody else because saying like Villa, like Bournemouth shouldn't lower their standards for Eddie just sounds like you're trying to like you cannot be an Arsenal fan. You cannot be an Arsenal fan and be saying and trying to convince like are you going to send an email to Bournemouth, you know, and try to say do not buy Eddie because only a rival would do that. And like even a rival wouldn't do that because they wouldn't care enough. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, and Troy, again, like, they don't want him, but they're actively, like, interested in him. You don't like him, so, like, be serious for 5 seconds. Like, I just don't get it. But yeah, let's see. Anton Dunn says, "Get me a Dingra. That's a smart buy, but can we get him for 30 million?" I don't know. You know Brighton are crazy. They'll want, like, a lot more for him. I wonder what they would what they would ask for. What wingers have gone in the Premier League? I'm trying to think. Who has bought a winger so far? Chelsea bought Neto for almost 60 million. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, and Neto is more experienced. So I would say they'll probably ask for like 45. I think 45 is what they'll go with. Brighton because Brighton, they don't have to sell. He's young. It's Premier League club to Premier League club, so you can always add a little bit extra because they wouldn't know we have the money or assume we have the money. And Pedro Neto going for like 55 to 60 million to Chelsea would strengthen their hand just a little bit. So yeah, I would say like 45 million. I don't think we could get him for 30. I just can't see it. Brighton are never in a position where they're like that desperate to sell. You know what I mean? So, let's see. Samuel says City bought one, but they bought one from their sister club, Girona. So it's all like that's all wrapped up. Like, into I feel like Pedro Neto is a better because it's from two different clubs, not clubs that are owned by the same person, because they can always you know, they can always fix it so that it works for both people or both clubs. So yeah, but they did buy Savio from Girona. So yeah, I would say maybe like 45 million for sure. Let's see. Zach 10 says, would you take Matoma? No, not at this stage. Because I forgot what he played like. He was out all last season. Um, I like Matoma, but I don't think he solves the problem that we have. Um, I think we need somebody pacier. And if they're not pacey, they better be really good. Which I don't know if I believe that he is. Andy says Chelsea bought Palmer for 40 million, but that was like last summer. I'm talking this summer. So Emily says not enough end product. I think you're talking about Matoma, maybe. Matoma definitely doesn't have enough end product. Matoma's great. I just feel like Adingra would be a better option for us. Both can play on both sides and is pacier, and like his dribbling level is not significantly worse than Matoma's, but that's just me. So yeah, Marco says, nah, I disagree on the Adingra stuff. We're in a win mode now. Would rather have Sane. I don't know. I don't like that. Like if that's all you're gonna offer me, and that's all I have like available to me, I'm gonna take it because we need something. But even though we're in a win now mode, doesn't mean you can't bring in somebody who's young with a high ceiling and still improve. Um, and I just still feel like we'd be better off with somebody that has a higher ceiling. Because even though it's like, yeah, this season, it's like, yeah, but there's more seasons than just this one. I, I don't know about the Sane thing. Sane's also injured quite a bit. So yeah, Nuance of the Fate says Neto would have been perfect for us. Yeah, he would have. Um, um, let's see. Burmese says Phil Krug was reportedly sold for 27 million pounds. He was. He's older too. It's weird what West Ham are doing. They're doing really well, but they're kind of building like the perfect Moyes side. They're building in like bringing in like a lot of older guys and, kind of like these more physical players. And it's funny that they're building a team for Moyes without Moyes being there, but it's a difficult comp with Fulkrug and Nketiah anyway, because they're just two completely different people profiles. Like Fulkrug is older, more experienced national team player. So it's a little bit different. So yeah. Vig says Sane is actually a good shout in my opinion, given that Arteta has worked with him before. Tuchel didn't utilize Sane properly, has pace, could be a good impact player. He looks like he's lost pace to me. I don't know if he looks like he's lost pace to me. I think he's really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure about the Sane thing. I'm not sure about it, to be honest. But if you guys think Sane makes us better, win now. I want somebody that has a higher ceiling. I'd rather go for the higher ceiling. Um, Alex says, I think Eddie would do well at Bournemouth. 20 million would be a good deal. Ram says, Nketiah might do a decent job for the likes of a Bournemouth. At Arsenal, he gets a lot of chances, and he is in the team expected to win games elsewhere. He might relax a bit. Terrence says Sane looks depressed and would cause discontent in the dressing room. I don't want to put anything on Sane. Like I don't know his personality. So it's hard for me to say, but he doesn't give me the feeling of somebody that's going to come in and bring the right vibe, like Terrence is saying. And he is, like Shamari is saying, Sane is also injured. He's recovering from, I think, like a knee injury or something like that. So I think people are they want somebody that has a name versus actually thinking, first of all, it is more than just one season. So I really don't want some because he's not going to guarantee us winning the league. So just because we're getting him doesn't mean we can't think beyond just the season. He doesn't guarantee us winning it, and he can hurt us going forward in terms of our ability to move on other players and stuff because his wages, and he's old, and giving him a big contract, blah blah blah. So I'd rather get somebody with a high ceiling that's younger. Even though he is a good player, but I just don't know, like, what would he be excited to come to Arsenal? His dream was to go to Bayern. Do we have to reinvigorate him? Is he depressed? I just it's giving, let's just bring him in because he has a name and the other guy doesn't have a name, you know? Um, so yeah, Procast says Sane is top class. Nobody was saying that last season. I feel like people are saying it now because they're desperate. Samuel says, I like Mbomo from Brighton. You mean Brentford? I like Mbomo as well. I don't know how, like, Mbomo is like my mid-table baller. I love Brentford. I like watching them. And I love Thomas Frank. So it's like when I watch them, I'm watching my mid-table baller team do their thing. Do I want him at Arsenal? So yeah. This is funny. Andy, you're done, buddy. Just get him out of here. Like, if he's acting up, just get him out. Like, get Andy out of here. Big says the thing with signing players with the highest ceiling, it'll require us to shell out a lot of money, meaning statement signing. And Arteta clearly indicated that we aren't spending big this summer. Players, but that's not necessarily true because you can sign players with a high ceiling for good fees without having to spend 100 million. I think you end up having to spend 60, 70, 80, 90 million on players that already have a name that people already expect things from. So I think our scouting needs to do a better job of bringing in the right players. Like, scouts should be able to find, Edu should be able to find players that have a high ceiling that we don't have to spend that much on. It's not like City didn't go to Ren or Reims or one of those and buy Doku, a player with a high ceiling that could come straight into their team but can still get better, that adds a little bit of something different to their front line. They spent like 40 million on him. We could have bought Kudus for 40 million from Ajax. So the idea that to get a high ceiling player, you have to spend more than like 60, 70, you don't have to. We just don't have we're not looking in the right places, or you know what I mean? So it's like, I'd rather us go get a Doku-like, Kudus-like signing. They're out there. Those players are out there. We should have been on that Desire Doué guy. We should have been on that. We should have done that. But get those types of players rather than a Sane who could fall off of a physical cliff at any point. We don't know what his attitude is like. His wages are high. Like, I get that he has perceived X factor, but Bayern fans are not particularly in love with him, so I don't know, but I think we should get somebody that has a high ceiling that's a little bit younger. But if all I have offered to me is a Rafinha or a Sane, I'll take it. If that's all they're offering me. Burmy says, I hate to be a naysayer, but I'm not feeling encouraged that we'll get deals done by August 30th. Marino is taking longer than expected, and Eddie Rambo will take serious negotiations. So, yeah, Shamaria says, I'm going to delude myself into thinking we're getting Kudus because surely West Ham are do a big sale with their spending. We should have done that. We should have got him for the 40 million. It's another Isak. It's another Isak. Unfortunately, it's another Bruno Guimaraes. You put those three players in our team and we look completely different, but they're at other Premier League sides now, and we'll never get them now. It passed, like, so yeah, Brendan says we should have moved an attacker on last season and bought in Kudus like all of us were begging us to do. We didn't even have to do that. We just shouldn't have bought Kai Havertz for the 65 million. We didn't have to move anybody on to do it. He could have been in our team last season without us moving on Reece or Nketiah, So yeah, but that's what scouting is for, and buying at the right time is for. So yeah, hopefully we do that instead of bringing some old guy whom we know doesn't have the juice anymore. Like, let's be serious. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, Marino. So finally, Marino. The reason why it's taking so long is because there's a gap in valuation. Oh, Luke Shaw is injured again. Wow. That's crazy. Um, but um there's a gap in valuation. Sociedad want 35 million euros and Arsenal want to pay 25 million euros. And I feel like, so I read that, I think it was from like Miguel Delaney or something like that. They were saying that um, they want, or Arsenal are in a good position because every day that goes past, they lose time to find a replacement. He only has a year left, so they want to sell him in this window if they're going to sell him. So Arsenal are just waiting them out to try to see if they could get something lower. So this might take a while. We have the player committed to us. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those. So I don't envision us getting a here we go or anything like that this week. This might run all the way into like the final days of the window, which is super unfortunate because I think, a lot of us wanted to see our signings come in a little bit earlier. The good thing is that last summer we needed to get those signings in early because those players were going to inevitably end up starting the season. Players like Marino, whatever attacker we'll bring in most likely won't need to start. Like, we're not bringing in starters. We're bringing in like players that are going to fill in the squad more. So it's not like detrimental if they're not in right away, but it's just unfortunate that it is taking a little bit longer. I don't know why people are posting Rafinha and Arsenal kit. I know we're desperate, but my goodness, can we please find somebody that's not, let's just get somebody that's not tainted already. I don't know. I liked Rafinha when we were first linked to him. I thought he would have been perfect. Now I'm like, he's been so up and down at Barca. Is he ass now? Was he always ass? Like, what is it with him? Um, ugh, I don't know. But I know some Arsenal fans chomping at the bit for this guy. Chomping at the bit. Big says, is it a gap in valuation or is it because he's from the Basque region? Those guys are very regional. No, that's the report said that. I know that the Zubamendi is completely different than Marino, by the way. Like, Marino played in the Premier League before, so he's not like somebody that's never left there before. Marino is looking forward to his final big contract and he wants to play for a team that's in the Champions League. Zubamendi and Marino are two completely separate things. Zubamendi rejecting Liverpool was the best news I got yesterday. The optics would have been awful if they had been able to convince somebody that we were linked to for 2 years to come to them. But the rejection, that felt so good yesterday. I'm sorry, like, hold that. Like, the amount of rejections Liverpool have gotten over the last couple of years is crazy too. But I'm just glad that they're not getting him because also he's a good player. And I don't want Liverpool getting any more good players because they got enough. So that was great. But Marino and Zubamendi are completely different. They're completely separate. And I think it's literally is the gap in valuation. That's what the Athletic reported. So I feel like that's what it is. I'd say Johan Bakayoko from PSV can play both wings and has 2 years left, 21 years old, Belgium international. Love him as well, would take him in a fucking heartbeat. Like, he is the type of signing that Liverpool would make, and we would be like, why didn't we get him? I don't think we have to go get an old has-been from Barcelona or Bayern Munich. I'd rather get somebody fresh, new. The only problem that we have with Bakayoko is something actually came out about him yesterday. Let's look at it. And for people that are like, oh, but Sane, he cooked Kivior. Bakayoko also cooked Kivior. So if that's the requirement to come to Arsenal, then he has it. But yeah, Nottingham Forest have tried to sign Bakayoko twice. They tried to sign him last summer, and they tried to sign him this summer again. But I know I saw something that said, here it is. PSV Forward says, I'm not going for a mid-table Premier League team. I will summarize it briefly. I want to be able to become a champion, play in the Champions League, and play myself in the team. And so to me, that's one of our problems, is that our Arteta would have a really difficult time convincing Bakayoko to come on the right wing, because Arteta could never convince anybody that he's not going to play Saka. And so unless I would love Bakayoko. We should be able to convince somebody like him. But you know, Arteta is not going to give him the minutes. Like, all he has to do is look at the last couple of years and be like, okay, well, Saka's going to start every single game. He's 21, Saka's 22. It's not like he's an old guy, or Saka's an old guy, so you can see him fading out either. So, yeah, it's tough, but he would be higher on the pecking order list for me than Adingra. I think he is better to me. But Adingra is Premier League proven and all those types of things, and maybe he'd be interested to come to Arsenal. He wouldn't be as thing about not playing as much. So yeah, but he said that yesterday, and that also aligns with what came out earlier in the transfer window when we were first linked to Bakayoko, was that he doesn't know if Arsenal will be the right place because of Saka. So unless Arteta needs to get to a point where, he either, we just say we're never going to get a right wing backup like Salah and just focus on the left-hand side, or he needs to give somebody or double down on giving minutes to somebody on that right-hand side. And I just don't think he's ever going to do that. So I just don't think he's ever going to do that. So, let's see. Mo says, that's the problem I always say with Saka backup argument. What top player would come to be backup to a guy that barely gets injured? It is the first name on the team sheet. Exactly. Boy says, how's about Inaki Williams? Then he convinces his brother to come next year. Marco says, Jess, I beg you, can you please ask one of your Latino friends to help you pronounce Marino? Marino, big fan. Marino, I'm like, no, I won't. You guys give me a headache every day. Like, you guys were talking about how I pronounce Waneri, because I was saying Noweri at first, and then you guys told me it was Waneri, and then everybody in the comments was saying it was something else. I think we will live if I call him Marino. I think everybody will survive, so no. I'm sorry. Everybody that I hear talk about him says Marino. Mikel Marino. So I think we'll live. I really do. Boy says, I don't watch La Liga. We just need a backup is all. The one thing that's funny about people that don't want players from players that they don't know, or players from La Liga in particular, is these people are not seeing that Spain have a chokehold on the international game, but feel like there's no way that La Liga has good talent because they don't know of the names, because they don't watch the league. How is it the case that Spain won the Euros and also won the Olympics, but they don't produce talent, and most of that talent plays in that league? Start using your brain. Spain, if you want a midfielder, you want a Spanish midfielder, because they are producing midfielders like no one else. Like no one else. If you want a center back, France. And they most likely play in Ligue 1. Same thing with Spain. If you want a midfielder, get one from Spain. They're producing them like nobody's business. They could barely keep them in that squad. They had guys that couldn't make the Euro squad in that Olympic squad, and they were just as good. So Marino not being good because you've never heard of him before doesn't make sense, because a lot of people didn't even think Spain would be good for the Euros and were slapped across the face badly, because then they were like, oh shit, they're good. Yeah, they're good. These are where the midfielders are coming from. This is where the talent is. The talent is in Spain. Like I'm telling you guys. And this is coming from somebody who actually has to watch La Liga because it's my job. Like, so I do tune into La Liga quite a bit. And I was actually somebody that I was like, Spain had fallen off because no Ronaldo, no Messi. That's different than the talent not being there. The talent is there. It's there. It's there. So yeah. Diallo says, please let's not have a Kamala versus Kamala debate. Just respect people. Boy says, I told you, man, about Spanish midfielders when Partey was topic of the day last year. Big says, if you want tech vision passing, you need a player from La Liga. They are highly tactical. It's not just PMP. I mean, they have a stranglehold in like under 17s, under 19s, like Euros, Olympics, but people don't want players from that league because they don't watch it. That's why I don't be listening to people. I'm like, do you watch any other leagues? No. Shh. You don't watch any other leagues, don't talk. Because just because you don't never heard of them before doesn't mean they're not good. Okay? Like, doesn't mean that they're probably not a superstar. You know what I mean? But Moreno not being good, I really hope we get it over the line because the way people will be shooketh. Arsenal fans will be shaking because they genuinely do not understand how badly we need a midfielder like this. Technical, vision, well-rounded game. He just because he excels at duels and aerial duels does not mean the guy can't play. Please get it over the line, Edu. I need people shooketh. Just the way that people were surprised that Zubamendi came straight into that final and didn't look out of place. The same people, oh, Zubamendi doesn't look good on the comps. I don't think he's a superstar. Let's get Onana. Like, all right. Come back to this place. Come back. The worst part of this window is when Neto went to Chelsea and our fans started twerking for Mudryk. People were really saying, Arteta, bring him home. Bruh. Mudryk, I think there's talent in there somewhere, but genuinely, let's not solve any of Chelsea's problems. Let's just go get somebody of our own. Samuel says Spain always been producing midfielders. They literally use 4 midfielders in their national team. Ify says, I like Spanish La Liga because of the technical players they have. They're good, they're good, and that's not to me saying that Marino is like he's gonna be the next Rodri or anything like that. My main thing is people that are saying that he's not good genuinely have no clue. Like they literally don't have a clue. The guy is very good. Like he's not elite, but he's very, very good. And we could use somebody like this in our team. Like we really could. We're playing with Declan Rice. God, I love him at left center mid and Havertz at left center mid. We need a midfielder in there. Shamaria says they didn't want him because he didn't have light up the world against Madrid in the Champions League. Girl. Yo, I saw people say they didn't want Sesko because he didn't look good against Real Madrid in the Champions League. It's like they watch one game of a player and they decide, nope, not good enough. Not good enough. Stop. Like, you gotta watch more than one game. Especially if you're playing against Madrid of all teams. It's gonna be hard to stand out against, even Xavi Simons didn't look good against Real Madrid when Leipzig played against them. So yeah. Boy says Zubamendi is a homebody. No need to embarrass ourselves trying to sign him like Liverpool did. Jordan says, what's the holdup on the Sociedad deal? It just looks like a difference of opinion on what the valuation should be. There's about 10 million euro gap, which is actually pretty big when you think about it. So that one could go on for a while. Diallo asked, please explain what shaken. So I said 2 words. Arsenal fans are gonna be shaking and they're gonna be shooketh. They basically mean the same thing, that they're gonna be, like, shaking. Like, it's like it's almost like you're, like, kinda angry or you're scared or whatever. So if I say, like, "Oh, I'm shook," it's like I'm rattled, almost like I'm rattled, it's kind of like that. So shaking and shooketh. Ah, so yeah. Boy says, I still want Sesko after he signed the new deal. Surely a cheeky 65 million can get him. He's just another Isak. We won't know we should have gotten him until he goes to another Premier League side and they'll be, why didn't we get him? I can't believe it. It's like, come on now. Like, come on now. So yeah. Anton Dunn says Jess is Arsenal should hire you. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. They shouldn't hire me because I don't want to work hard. So, and I feel like the job is really hard and I don't want to do any of that. So, but what they should do is wait, why are people messaging me? What they should do is just get better scouts or whatever, because we could find good talent that's not necessarily like already exploded if we just try a little bit harder. But don't hire me because I'm lazy. I just want to go to the games and sit in the box. So do not hire me. I'm here for the food. I've always wanted to go in the cafe. Always. One of my dreams is to where they eat when they're at training. I want to eat there. I want to know what the food is about. That's all I care about. I don't want to work. No, I don't. I don't want to have to be on the phone. Eddie looks like he's on the phone constantly. I don't want to be on the phone. I could barely text somebody back. So I'm here for the gear. I'm here for the food. Do not hire me. We'll be in administration. We'll be in administration. Marco says, off topic, the black away jersey is nice. Even better when you see it in person and wear it. Listen, are you talking about the away kit or the goalkeeper kit? Because the goalkeeper kit, let's look at it real quick. Bruh. This is so nice. The goalkeeper kit is so, it's so good. It's so good. I want it. I want it. Now the away, I'm still having a hard time loving it. It looks better in person. I agree with you. I agree that it looks better in person, but look at, oh, that is so clean. It's so clean. Do you understand? As a person that wears black 90% of the time, this could go with so much. Isn't this so nice, guys? This is what I like. This should be our away kit. This is so nice. Also, I know we're going kind of off topic, but I am not happy about the way that Adidas is now doing their drops. Everybody's stuff looks the same. I saw somebody else kind of say it in the comments, but I think Adidas, like at the beginning, because remember, like everybody was Nike for like a long time. And I don't care that you call it Nike. I'm not going to say Nike. I'm going to say Nike. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. But when everybody was doing Nike, we switched over to Adidas kind of like early. And like all of our stuff looked very like just for us. It looked like it was just made for us. All the way up to like, I would say the season before last. So when we had the one with the collar, when we had our best ever kits, the black, the pink, and the red with the collar. Then it started to look like everyone else's because everybody switched over to Adidas now. I feel like the kits now kind of look like what Adidas kits look like when you're going to an international tournament, where they use the same template for everybody, but just change a little thing here, a little thing here, but it's like the same. Because even the international kits had the same shorts with the swoop that goes at the back. And there's nothing special or different about our kits to everybody else's. Everyone's looks like everyone's. Bayern's, Real Madrid's, United's, and ours, they all look the same. They just have something a little different. So, hot take, I think we should switch to Nike. I think we should switch back to Nike. And the reason why I say this is because then Nike will treat us good, because don't nobody want to be with Nike anymore. So they'll be forced to like be cute with us, because we need special treatment. Adidas is no longer giving us special treatment. And now that we're no longer special, I don't like our kits anymore. So I think we should switch. We should switch to somebody else so that we can be preferential treatment. Because ever since 2022, 2023, it's been giving template. It's been giving template. It's giving, we're doing everything the same for everybody. And I don't like it. I don't like it. So that's where I'm at with it. Brandon says that's exactly what it is. The shorts give it away. Exactly. MM says we just signed a 10-year deal. And for what? It was like there was like a whole period of time, like 5 seasons, where our shit just banged. It was just so much better than everybody else's. Then everybody else switched to Adidas. And it's just like, now it's looking like everybody just looks the same. And Man United just came out with this really cool jacket. And I'm like, so since when are we giving them the nice stuff? Since when? Before, you guys were giving them the zebra kit, which I loved because it looked like shit. Now we're getting the zebra kit. Adidas, count your days. Count your days. Because I'm not a happy girl. But yeah, it's giving template. And I like these kits a lot less than the last couple of years. They just are not giving to me. Like, now the third kit is nice. It is. It's nice. It is giving Monsters Inc., but it's nice. Like, that actually looks like a third kit should look. It should be completely different than anything else. But the home kit, it is what it is. It's not my favorite. It's probably out of the last 3 years my least favorite. And the way I'm still trying to get onto it, I'm still trying to feel like I like it. So yeah. Brandon says we got these Costco ass kits. I'm like, why have they done this to us? Like, what's happening? Like, Adidas used to love us. They used to kiss our ass. They were like, we're going to give you all the good shit. Nobody else is going to have anything like you. Now, everybody has things like us. In fact, people's stuff looks better. And I'm like, so what's tea? Now, let's talk about this Juventus third kit, though. It must be spoken about. I know we don't like Juventus. We want them administration, relegate them, fuck them, right? But this is the shit I'm talking about. Look at this. Look at this, guys. That is so fucking nice. That is so nice. Like, look at that. That's so nice. Like, where is ours? This shit. I was like, maybe I'm a Juventus fan. Just for the kit. Hello? Hello? Look at this. Where's ours? That pissed me off. Like, that's so nice. So yeah, this is why I'm thinking they don't really like us anymore. They don't really like us anymore like that. So yeah, that's nice, right? Nuance says that's clean. Even the Bayern home kit. Exactly. The Bayern home kit. Let's go look at that real quick. Because I'm just like, bruh, is anybody else seeing this? Is anybody else seeing that? I'm just very, feeling like they don't like us as much. This kit, whatever this is, their third kit. Their third kit, not the home one, the third. Am I a Bayern fan? Bitch, I might be. Bitch, I might be. Hold on. Let's see. Let me just get to the right one so you guys can see it. Excuse me? Hello? Am I a Bayern fan? You know what? So that's where I'm at. I think Adidas has kind of done us a little dirty. And we should say, listen, we'll pull out of the 360 and take it to court if you don't start doing nicer stuff for us. Because this is clean. I like this. I like the Juventus third kit. Manchester United just got a really nice track jacket. Come on, like give us something. But yeah, enough of that. But yeah, guys, we have gone on long enough. We've dissolved into nothingness. But make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Remember that we are doing a watch along for the Wolves game tomorrow. I'll put out the link tomorrow on tomorrow's show. So it's closer to the time. Also, the first Canon Club of the season will come out on Friday. Me and Harry are going to record on Thursday, and then I'll put it out on Friday. So you guys will get like a pre-match, and then we're also going to record on Monday. So you guys will get another episode Tuesday, probably Tuesday. So look out for that. And hopefully we'll get to talk about something, but at the very least, we'll be talking about games starting this weekend. So yeah, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.